G'day, sports fans. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Sports by Bry podcast. A Wednesday hump day edition coming at ya. Joined by the great man J-Lo to discuss plenty of sporting tidbits, starting with fantasy. He continues to outscore me, the prick. He's doing really well the last couple of weeks, and the large fries and Coke are not. So we talk through our trade movements, and I think I have to get rid of Ben Keys rolling into this week, but a matchup against Kangaroos might make me look elsewhere. But we talked about that. He's got Patrick Cripps in his side, and obviously that bloke has copped a 2-game suspension. So not only did we discuss the fantasy ramifications, but we talked about Carlton and what it means for their potential finals hopes and a couple of other finals bits and pieces. We covered a couple of other trending topics throughout the league and some trade potential destinations, and there are more trade rumours for something different involving the Brooklyn Nets. So today we broke down the Atlantic division and the 5 teams there, talked about their off-season and how they're looking rolling into next year, including the Nets, which it's really tough to forecast what Brooklyn's going to look like. And we rounded out the podcast with, I will say it, my favourite Mt Rushmore draft to date, featuring the late, great Kobe Bryant. So ripper episode in store for you. Let's get right amongst it. It's Wednesday, it's hump day, so it's time to sit down with the great man, J-Lo himself. How you do?
I do. I'm doing, and I'll continue to do until the day I die. So
we're just continually coming up with,
a long time away.
Continually coming up with slogans we can put on a t-shirt. I love that. How are the Quisplorkin boys traveling? Let's not waste any time. Let's get into it.
Bang, bang.
How you looking?
Did I think I beat you again?
You did. Yep, you fucking did.
Yep, I did. But it's tricky now. Cripps and Kelly both out. So I've got to get and like it would have been nice if I could trade. It would have been fine if I could trade Cripps, because I think I got Cully sitting here still. Yeah, I do. But Kelly and Cripps at the same time, it's a conundrum. So we might get to talk through a few of the options.
Yeah, that is a bit dicey having both of them out. I forgot that you still had Cripper. I did see the TK got a week, but I did actually see what he got banned for. I haven't looked at his incident. It's all been about Paddy Cripps and that bump on Calamar Chi. So what did TK do?
It was like a sling tackle, a one arm pinned on Sam Berry.
Did he deserve the week he got, you reckon?
Yeah, it was probably right on the line. I think they might have maybe appealed it and didn't get off. So
yeah, okay.
What are you going to do? But
I remember seeing both of them go to tribunal, but yeah, not ideal.
Yeah. So I'm out here making lemonade. With the lemons that I've been given.
Yeah, that's I think
lemonade.
How they're made. We're all about midfield trades this week because I'm ditching Ben Keys. Fair to say that experiment did not work. If I had gone Zach Barrett, Jack Steele, or Callum Mills, who were also in the window, then I might have been able to sneak one more W against you. But I think you've won like 4 on the trot now. It's 13-7, the head-to-head ledger. So,
let's go.
Couple of weeks to go. You could definitely claw that back still. Where are you ranked now?
8, 9, 2, 6.
He's coming. So, he's coming in hot.
Yeah. I want to get in the under 8,000, I guess, in 2 weeks. That's pretty doable. Assuming everyone on my team plays well. It felt like I had a ton of crew playing not well last week and still got by thanks to Gawny and some other people. I don't know. But like
still
Merritt,
got Roe Marshall,
55. Yeah, Roe Marshall was good. Like, I brought in Luke Parker, which worked out well. So yeah, just it was by committee. It's definitely by committee last week, but this week, fuck knows where it's coming from. So
I feel like my failures were by committee. Like a lot of people just had 90s, low hundreds, or stunk it up like your Merritts and your Ben Keys, Das Cameron. A couple of those characters just did not help. Tom Stewart. Oh, I forgot about Tom Stewart.
Sorry to remind you.
All right, let's let's brainstorm. So obviously Cripps and Kelly out is not ideal. From memory, you didn't have oh, no, you had tons in the bank, didn't you? Did you do the
No,
Zorko Hawley move?
no, I couldn't because Terrence, while I was sort of sitting in the airport waiting, and I saw the news, luckily before the flight, got it done. So I brought Parker in.
Yep,
So,
gotcha. Okay.
So I ended up with, I've sort of done my trades now. So I think I had maybe 50 to 75 left, not a ton.
Not tons.
So Cripper was worth, let's see what he's worth. He was worth 809 and Kelly was a measly 612. So I think all up I had about 1.5, probably not quite 1.6 left in the bank. And so I got to get 2 mids in there.
I guess the tricky thing, if you're in that position, sorry to cut you off, is
you're right.
you decide, do you go like 2 blokes who are kind of, a level or 2 down from the guns? Like, do you get 2 750 blokes? Or like with Cripper and Kelly, do you get one who's 500 and 600K and then load up with another big dog? It's a tough spot to be in.
Exactly. So, well, there really, I don't think, in my humble opinion, is any sort of way that I could go Oliver, Mills, or Laird. They're probably the only 3 I would consider it at the top. I mean, they are pretty much the top 3, excluding Hugh McClug. So, like, if I put Millsy in, I'd probably have, just maybe just under 6 left.
Right.
Or maybe 6 flat, and doesn't quite. Oh, actually, I could tell you exactly what I'd have left. I'd have, I'd be under 6, which is just, it's not where you want to be.
Not doable.
So the 2 routes that I'm considering is either, or the one I've got locked in right now is Darcy Parish, very underpriced. I think he's got, who's he got? Let's see. Port Adelaide this week, and then he finishes with the Tigers. Had like had about 120 against Port last time, or high teens, and had like 140 against the Tigers.
Yeah, right.
So I'm feeling all right about those matchups. Feel like that's an okay run out. And then the Zorkinator's still 600. So that's what I'm sitting with right now. I think I just slung. Oh, actually, Zorko's just in my midfield because he's a mid back. The other option I was considering, which it honestly might be a bit more fun. I feel like maybe less safe, but I was considering bringing in Ollie Wines. They've got a pretty nice run home from memory. Have you got Connor Rosie? Oh, no, have you got Butters there that you can just check their run?
Yep.
What's his run home like?
They got the Dons at Marvel Stadium and then close the season with Adelaide, or the Showdown.
Very tasty, let's be honest.
True.
So strongly considering Wines. And with Wines, I would bring in Chad Warner.
Oh, okay. Now we're talking.
And yeah, wouldn't that be a bit of fun?
That is a bit of fun. And Ollie Wines is a bloke that can just have, he did it last year. I think I brought him in, might have been around the buys or just after the buys. And it was one of those picks, kind of like Luke Parker when I got him 5 or 6 weeks into the season. I was like, I don't love it. I don't know how I feel about this. And then he just kept getting it done. So once he just needs 2 big scores, could very possibly happen. The Chad Warner one, I don't know how he's been scoring lately. He's obviously had a ripper season, but his fantasy numbers, I do wonder if they've fluctuated a bit, if he's got a couple 80s in there or he seems a bit more fun, you're right, but maybe a bit dicier. They got Collingwood and St Kilda off the Dome to close the year.
He kicked 3 goals last week. He got a 92, but he kicked 3 goals. Nice run home is what I'm looking at. And I feel like Collingwood's the sort of team that he could just go bananas against. But the crap thing is they haven't bloody played yet. Sydney and Collingwood is like that the one of those few games where
Oh, really?
they haven't played yet. So that's why I was even looking at Dacos. I was like, oh, what's he going to get? I don't know. They haven't fucking played yet. So I'm not sure. You're right. I feel like the Warner one, it's a bit higher risk, maybe not equal reward. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
So I think I will. I truly believe Das Parish is a top 8 mid.
I like the Das
when he's
Parish
gone.
route.
And Zorko is fine. That potentially next week lets me sling maybe Dacos out. Maybe.
Yep.
I don't know. It's a bit hard to bloody tell what that bloke's dishing up. It's pretty hard to get rid of him off a 108. But yeah, that's probably the route I'll go. But, you know, I might get a bit fun. Might get a bit inspired in the next, how long we got? Day and a half. But that's roughly what I'm going. You got any feelings on those two routes?
To be honest, I prefer the Parish Zorko train. I think Zorko's he's got a couple of safe 90s in the bank for the last couple of weeks. I'm actually at the moment looking at trading him in as well. And the Parish one, it's interesting because a lot of people will probably be like, oh, fuck, Zach Merritt can't score anymore now that Das Parish back in the team after that 1 week and he popped a 50. But if you've got both of them, obviously already being a Merritt owner, that does kind of bode well. You know, those two. I'm trying to think of another comparison. There's none that jump into mind, but you feel like those two are going to get to, 230 between them on a good day, 250 plus. And, it might be that Merritt has 130 of it and Das gets 95 or whatever, but I feel like those two are going to still score well to close out the season. So if you got one of them, you may as well bring the second one in.
Yeah, why not? Why not? They both scored. I mean, Richmond are easy to score against in the midfield, and I feel like Port, who knows what they're dishing up. They're friggin' annoying to go up against. You're like, oh, are they going to be the world-beating Port that suffocates a team, or are they just going to get trounced? So
yeah, I did laugh as Ken Hinkley was saying, I can't remember which game it was, but they were like, oh yeah, Port mathematically can't make the finals now or whatever. And then he was like, oh, well, just you wait. Like, we're here to, cause some ruckus and we're going to keep upsetting teams on the way through the finals. Just watch out. And then I think they've lost like 3 of their last 4.
Yeah.
And just kind of crashed back to earth. So
good on you, Ken.
Thanks, Ken. Although I'm glad that Zach Butters is firing on a Port standpoint. I brought him in last week, got rid of my last rookie. So at the time we started recording this, had done Keezy down to Zorko. I don't care if he's got North this weekend. He had that weird forward roll where he was tagging Sard and from memory kicked 3 or 4 snags that saved his score. But I didn't watch the West Coast game over the weekend, but it did not look like he was out there getting a lot of the footy. So, no, you burnt me too much. So naturally he's going to have 120 this week. But
he probably
instead, and then go Das Cameron up to Maxi Gawn. Why not?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm having a little bit of a tinker and a play around because I can get Das Cameron to Zorko and move Will Brodie out of my midfield into my forward line. Doesn't get me a lot of extra cash, but then when I trade out Ben Keys, I can get up to, I'm just having a quick squiz. I can get up to a Petrarca, a Josh Kelly, Viney even, someone a bit unique. So I might do that and just roll the dice, have a bit of fun, and just keep Timmy English and Sean Darcy in my rucks. I wanted to get rid of Sean Darcy. He hasn't been dominating, but, it's another docker. There's only 2 weeks left. In a perfect world, I would have turned him to Gawn a couple of weeks ago, but say la vie. I'm just hoping that I don't get overtaken by the surging Quisplorcan boys at the moment. So might have to.
What are you ranked?
6,100.
Almost. Well,
yeah.
At least I'm finishing close to your fight for 1 year. It's not like a 10 to 20,000 ranking
bridge. Yeah, gap.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
that's where I'm at.
I think
I'm
similar deal. I might go a bit of a dice roll. I might even honestly bring, I don't know what he had on the weekend, Kelly back. Love watching Josh Kelly.
I think.
That doesn't exactly fill me with confidence. But yeah, regardless, I can get to Petrarca. Like I said, he's coming off a 120. So
Yeah,
got a couple
that'd be
options.
fun. That would be fun. Yeah.
Who are the D's got this week? Do you know?
They got the Friday night against the Blues.
Oh, is that Friday night?
No, it is not. It's Saturday.
I was going to say, I didn't realize that was on Friday night. Well,
Saints Brizzy.
That's as good a segue as any, because the next thing on the agenda I wanted to talk about was the Carlton Blues. We briefly touched on Paddy Cripps' suspension, but apparently they appealed it at the tribunal. You know, they challenged it. They said, no, you're still getting 2 weeks. And they said, no, we still want to challenge it. So apparently, again, tomorrow there's another appeal going on. So I don't know what's drastically going to change. Just looking at the footage, I'm like, he jumped, he bumped, the bloke got concussed. He's probably not getting off. So no Cripper. George Hewitt's going to probably miss this clash as well against the D's. The Blues
got 2 to 3 weeks, they reckon, on their injury report.
Yeah, see, he might even miss the rest of the season, honestly. And if Carlton go 0 for 2 against the D's and then Collingwood in the last round, they might miss the 8. Do you reckon they're going to miss out?
Oh, I could see it happening. I really could.
Poor Blues
Missing
fans,
Cripps and Hewitt is, they got Govsy back. They're sort of, the cavalry's arrived at each end. I mean, obviously with, the forwards, but it would be just the most Carlton Blues thing to happen ever. They looked so safe 5 weeks ago. They look great, actually.
Yeah.
But part of me loves those funny, sadistic storylines, and I want to see it. I want to see him miss the finals. I know it's a bit of a cunty thing to say, but I want to see it. Yeah.
I thought on that note, we might have seen Richmond finish 9th again, just revert back to their habits of yesteryear before their dynasty. Yeah. But it seems like they're 1 win behind the Blues. So you feel like they're okay. They're playing Hawthorn this week. They win that game, they virtually lock up a spot. The Saints, they're only 2 points behind the Tigers because obviously they got a draw up their sleeve. The Saints are a win behind Carlton, and then the Doggies are 2 wins behind. So it's getting pretty dicey for those last 2 spots in the 8. I think you can pencil Richmond into one of them. St Kilda versus Sydney in the last round, all of a sudden, like Saints have to beat Brisbane this week if they want to sniff, but Saints versus Sydney in the last round should be a blockbuster in determining what happens. Do you reckon Richmond probably gets in, right?
I've got a lot of faith in Richmond. We got the most exciting player in the league. I reckon Shea Bolton's a top 10 player, honestly.
Well, this season, I heard a ridiculous stat this week. He's kicked 39 goals, 39 on the season. Wow. So, if he had have put 10 more snags on the board and had 50 goals next to his name, he'd be a lock for the All Oz, and he'd, be getting a lot more buzz, and he's already generating a shitload based on his successes.
I don't reckon Dusty's ever kicked 50 goals in a season.
Nah, I don't think he has either. So, yeah, it'd be very interesting. The Doggies, like I said, they got a tough task to try and get up into the finals after losing to Freo on the weekend. They got the Giants and Hawthorn to close the season. So they probably go 2-0. But it really, I think, comes down to that St Kilda game. They lose to Brisbane this week, right? You reckon?
Probably. It's really hard to tell. God, ladder position wise, yes. Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in the Saints after their rambunctious start to the year.
Yeah, another team. I think they were 8-3 when they hit their bye from memory. So,
yeah, I do like that they're finally gone. Oh, you know what? It's better fantasy wise, but having Paddy Ryder in probably actually makes them a lot better team. So him being out's pretty big for them, I would say.
So I think the Doggies have to go 2-0. Carlton might go 0-2. St Kilda might have to win 1 game virtually. And if they do win one of their last 2, then all 3 of those teams are going to be locked points-wise and it's just going to come down to percentage. So interesting end of the season coming up.
Bloody oath, yeah. Bugger off, Carlton. That'd be so funny.
Actually, yeah. Like you said, as sadistic as it is, I kind of want to see them just flip on out.
Yeah.
Poor bastards. One team that's not going to be on the outside looking in is the Brisbane Lions. And they are very hot in pursuit of one Lance Buddy Franklin. I talked a little bit about it on the Monday episode that I did, Solo Dolo, but I didn't realize Buddy's kicked 45 goals this year. That's absurd. I was like, he went 51 last year from memory, and I was like, oh, I thought his career was virtually done back in 2020 when he had all those ankle and injury issues. But on the surface, gun to my head, I reckon he stays in Sydney, but he's going to have to take a pay cut if he wants to do that. Brisbane may be able to offer him a chance to, be the final piece in a premiership puzzle to end his career, which would be pretty interesting. The Swans might obviously contend for one this season, but on the surface, what do you reckon of the idea of Buddy Franklin going to Brisbane? Do you like it? Do you want to see him stay with the Swans? Do you think it makes sense for the Lions to pursue him? What are your thoughts?
I wouldn't mind it. It'd be all right. I think that probably makes a lot of sense for the Lions. I think they're probably Danaher. I don't know how I feel about him, where he's at. He's always injured. Hipwood, I don't know what's he done since he came back. Anything?
I'll find out for you, but off the top of my head, the only thing I remember him doing is running into an umpire, or pushing a bloke into an umpire.
Yeah, look, I'm not convinced with any three of the sort of big forwards that they've got. McStay up there as well. I would love to see Buddy go up there. The Lions do a great job of just extending players' careers by a year or two, and sounds like he's got enough in the tank. That warm weather probably good for his muscles. Keep him warm. You know what else I'd love to see? I'd love to see him join Dusty up there. If they could somehow reel Dusty up to Brisbane. I mean, obviously cap wise, I don't know how it would work, but wouldn't that be fun to see Dusty and Buddy in the same forward line?
Yeah, shit. I didn't even think about that. There's talk that Dan McStay is virtually out the door and going to go to Collingwood or somewhere else. So that does potentially open up a spot. Hipwood, for what it's worth, he kicked 4 goals 3 a couple of weeks ago, but hasn't really fired since then. But if you let's exclude Dusty for a second. If you go Buddy, Danaher, Hipwood, Charlie Cameron, Zach Bailey, and then someone else, maybe Dusty, that's an unreal forward group. And you're right. I think Buddy to Brisbane, when I first heard it, I was like, no, stay in Sydney, finish your career there. But Brisbane do a pretty good job of extending blokes' careers, and he's probably got 1 year left, you reckon? Maybe at absolute maximum 2. But I think
who knows?
Yeah, well, he might just Tom Brady it and play till he's 45. I don't hate the idea. I'm warming to it. I didn't really like it when I first heard it, but the more I look at it, the more I'm like, yep, that actually kind of makes sense for all parties, I reckon. But he gets to finish his career out challenging for a flag with a third team. And there's always, well, not always, but quite often you'll see blokes, it happens all the time in the NBA, obviously chasing a ring to end their career. But the example I heard was Dermot Burton, playing for Collingwood. You kind of forget that chapter happened, even though it did, to the end of his career. And we'll always picture Buddy as a hawk/swan, but if he goes and wins a flag with Brisbane, it'd be a pretty unreal way to bow out.
Could win a flag with Sydney this year.
That's true. It's true. He might.
Do you reckon if he won a Prem this year, he'd finish? Or did he kick on?
If I was him, I'd probably bow out. But
yeah, yep.
It's one of those things is while you can make money and play footy, you make money and play footy, right?
Bloody oath. And the other thing that the rest of us who aren't in the AFL and have never been at Buddy Franklin's level need to remember is we don't have a fucking clue what it takes to succeed at that level, and what level of drive you need to have to pull this off and just to be there year after year. I'm still the best. So yeah, we probably shouldn't even fucking comment on that. Let's be honest. We have no idea, mate. We just make podcasts once a week.
Probably not. So there's our thoughts on Lance Franklin. Thanks for listening to this episode. That's us done.
What do we know?
last little footy tangent. Oh, actually, while we're on the topic of the Swans, another Josh Kennedy has announced his retirement. So didn't want to go to a
his thunder.
didn't want to go to huge length digging up a useless sports by fry stat this week, but Josh Kennedy, number one in AFL history for contested possessions. So shout out to another JK. Ben McAvoy today as well announced his retirement. Big boys bowing out. So there's plenty of dudes, and I only reckon there's going to be more that bob up and say they pulled the pin on their careers. But yeah, Josh Kennedy, I don't reckon I owned him too many times in fantasy, but that bloke was, a jet.
Absolute jet. And what one of the great draft steals of all time. Draft steals, trade steals of
Swindles,
all time.
yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Like, did you see who they traded him for or what the picks turned out to be?
I kind of remember Ben McGlynn being involved in the deal and a couple of other picks.
He went over with Josh.
Oh, I thought it was the other way around. Well, there you go.
Yeah, they got him and Ben McGlynn, and then the 3 picks they sent were like that it was used to bring Stanton up from a rookie list or something.
Yep.
So he's all right. And the 2 others, I was like, I don't even know who those blokes are, more or less. I might probably have heard their names, but I was like, wow, that was an absolute swindle. And that's just what Sydney Swans do. That's how the Swans have stayed the Swans for so long.
Yeah, they are just a quintessential, like, great culture, winning culture. Yep. Don't bottom out too often. One other, because, I did say I wasn't going to dig through a useless sports by fry stat, but I did find one. He was the only bloke to kick a goal in all 3 of Sydney's grand finals that they played in. So there you go.
Yep, good on you.
Last footy thing. Max Gawn and Brodie Grundy joining forces. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you want to see it? Where do you stand? Because that's kind of not floored me. I'm like, oh, that's bizarre. Why would they do that? And
makes a lot of sense.
Does make a lot of sense.
It makes so much sense. They're about to lose Luke Jackson, right? Let's say he's out the door.
Yep.
And then you've got Maxi Gawn is old. He's done an ACL or 2.
Tend to forget. Yeah, he has.
And they're just going to need someone to help. They don't have Bruce there anymore. Imagine if you could literally just 50-50 in the ruck with Grundy and Gawn. And when they're not there, the other one's sitting up forward, like just causing trouble. That would. I don't know how I feel about the D's and their premiership window and how long it will be open. They've got the young players. I don't know if, other than Petrarca and Oliver, if those young players are good enough to keep that window open.
Yeah.
But if they got Grundy, I reckon the window would stay wide open for 4 more years at least. So if I would be doing whatever I can to get old Grundleton across, I think that'd be huge. And they'd probably only have to give up, like you give up your first round pick if you're the D's and maybe another second round. You're like, whatever. Like it's pick 17. No worries. Off you go.
I think from memory, their first rounder this year is tied to the Swans because they flicked it. But, they can trade next year's one. And if Collingwood is in pursuit of Timmy Taranto and they need a bit of that salary cap space, you could even do a bit of a 3-way where the Giants get all the picks, the D's get Grundy, and Collingwood get Tim Taranto. That might work. But they've got Jake Melksham coming off the books at the end of the year. Michael Hibberd, he's another one who'll probably announce his retirement. So that frees up, a couple of doll hairs. They might be able to use them to sign Grundy. But it's an interesting premise of seeing probably the 2 best ruckmen in the league right now join forces. You don't think that they would want to. You feel, I don't know why, but I feel like the traditionalists would be like, nah, they want to go to war against each other. But if you can get 1 and 2 on the same team and like you said, split time and one of them goes forward, or if one gets hurt, like you said, Maxi's 30 odd, then they've got just the ultimate cheat code backup plan. It's makes a lot of sense.
They'll probably also get a pick from Freo, pick or 2.
True. Yeah, there'll be something involved in that deal. You're right. So whether it's a first or a future.
Possible. Could happen.
Very possible. Yeah, watch this space. I'm excited for the AFL trade season to kick off, but there's obviously a couple of weeks of the home and away season, a couple of weeks of fantasy, and then finals to dig into as well. Let's do basketball now.
Let's do it.
I don't want to start with the Brooklyn Nets, who are once again in the headlines for other reasons, but we will get to them. We talked all about the Northwest Division last week and where we sat on the teams and how well they've done in the offseason and their position moving forward. So I reckon we bounce between West and East over the next month or so. So we'll go to the Atlantic, where the Brooklyn Nets reside, but we'll start with the team from New York. Okay. And I'm interested to see what the Knicks unleash this season. They probably fell back to earth last year after they had home court the year before, right?
They did.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah.
You kind of forget about that.
And then probably got bounced by the Hawks, I think.
They did, yeah. In 6 from memory, but they didn't exactly fire last year. A lot of I think Tibbs is probably going to lose his job this year because a lot of their young dudes need development and need to play. And they didn't really play much last year. Like RJ Barrett got run into the dirt and played what felt like 37, 38 minutes a game. So I think a new coach with the right mindset to develop these young guys is what New York needs. I was skeptical on the Jalen Brunson free agent get, but I actually think it's a smart play for them. You know, he's got a lot of family ties to the organization as well. So it seems like he's probably going to end his career there and stay there. Will he ever make an all-star team? Maybe not. But he at least provides them a bit of stability at point guard. And then, like I said, your likes of Emmanuel Quickley, Quentin Grimes, and RJ, I think how much of a leap those guys take and how much they develop will dictate exactly how far the Knicks go for the rest of the season. They didn't make too many changes with the exception of signing old mate. You know, a couple of other minor tweaks here or there. Hartenstein's not exactly a scrub. He's a solid backup. So,
yeah, I think he made some well moves. There.
Give me your Knicks thoughts. What do you reckon?
Playing bottom of the East playing team. You wonder how much Julius Randle has in him. You know, he's only 8-year pro, but he broke a leg. He's a heavy guy.
You forget that happens, eh?
Yeah, he's a heavy guy. I like that they've still got Cam Reddish sitting there. I think there's a lot of upside in him, and he's a good defender.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we like RJ Barrett. Do we love him? Not sure. He could be most improved this year and, you know, take over New York, but that seems like it's fading. That sort of hope. Do like Brunson, like the Hartenstein addition, but outside of that, boy, it's just an uninspiring roster. Like, you know, their bench must be one of the worst benches in the league. I reckon. Like, and yeah, I totally agree. I think Tibbs loses his job. I think he's an overrated coach. He just fell on prime Derrick Rose with a good Luol Deng, was he defensive player of the year or all defensive first team Joakim Noah?
Yeah, he was defensive player of the year in 2014.
Yeah, and he was bloody good, but I don't think he's actually a good job. He's been run out of town in every other like situation that he's been in. He's a bit of a hard ass. He's a bit of seems like a jerk. Doesn't play the kids. When they signed him, I thought it was just a weird bloody signing. I've got to be honest. And they got up to 4th and he hung on, but I think he's out the door. You got to get minutes into Toppin. You got to get minutes into Robinson, who they just extended for, I think it was 4 years. Yeah, to 2026.
Yep.
What's Randle doing? I don't know. Like, you wonder, Randle's signed until, he's got a player option in 25. He probably walks. Let's be honest. I don't know. I'm just not sure. They just got all that draft capital. So it looks like they're still going to the draft. But it is New York. So they could get a Don Mitchell. They could get a big signing, which might change everything. But boy, you would want the coach in place before that happens. And so I think this is probably, they should have fired him already, honestly. But
I mean, I've thrown the bloke under the bus a bit and, you know, we've shat on him. You're right. He is I think, overrated coach, but he's still a pretty good coach. He's had he led them to the playoffs last year when he was with Chicago as well. That, like you said, they experienced a lot of success. He had those stars, but he did, coach them and steer them to success. I think
He was at the
Donovan
Wolves.
Mitchell. Yeah, true. I forget about that. The Donovan Mitchell
Shit.
piece just hangs over this entire franchise. Like if they get him and they lose some of those young dudes and those picks that you alluded to, then that might see him stay for a bit longer. Might, especially if they're successful. And he seems like the type of coach that isn't really there to develop a roster. He's not exactly like I don't know. He doesn't raise those young dudes up. He's more of like, wringing the cloth to get everything he can out of the stars and pushing for a playoff push. I'm tracking back to RJ Barrett. I think the biggest concern with that bloke is how bad his shooting numbers were last year. Like you had him in fantasy, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So he was 44% from the field 2 years ago and then dipped down to 40%. And then he was 40% from three and went backwards to 34%. So he upped his scoring a couple of points, but if he had upped his shooting percentages, he could have challenged for the most improved last year.
Honestly. Or maintained.
Yeah, true. So, yeah, I'm a bit. They went 37. Oh, hang on, I got it here. 37 and 45 last year. I think they go better. I think they go closer to 500, but a play-in berth probably seems like they're ceiling, maybe making up the numbers in the playoffs if they can get hot at the right end of the season and win a couple of games to earn a 7 or 8 seed.
Unless Barrett scores 30 a game. That could happen. You never know.
Could happen. You feel for Knicks fans who are, Kevin and Kyrie want to come. Yeah, we'll get both of them and we're going to have Zion. Instead, they miss Zion. They miss both those dudes. They even miss out on Jar with pick 2. And the consolation prize is that they get RJ Barrett, who just looks like he's going to be a streaky shooter for the rest of his career.
Poor Knicks. Nah, I got no sympathy.
Yeah, no. Fuck the Knicks and fuck the Carlton Blues.
Yeah, fuck them.
Alrighty, next cabs off the rank is the podcast's favourite team, the well-loved Philadelphia 76ers. You can start. Give me a Sixers thought. The 51 and 31 Sixers from a season ago.
Well, look, I don't mind the guys they brought in. PJ Tucker. Don't know where D'Anthony Melton came from, but no worries.
Draft
Dan
not
House.
trade.
What's that?
He was
draft
not trade.
I thought you said draft, not trade. I was like, he got drafted again? Didn't know he could do that. Yeah, and I think Maxey gets better. I think Milton might, develop more. I think Thibault, you kind of know what you're going to get, but it's pretty handy what he provides, and he might get better. It really comes down to, can James Harden fit in? Maybe. And can Joel Embiid? No, Joel Embiid's going to continue to do what Joel Embiid has done. Can he stay healthy?
Big question.
Well, we kind of harp on that, but he did stay healthy last year. So let's go with recent trends. So I kind of like them. I think they'll probably finish with a pretty similar record. And that's all you need to do in that top-loaded East. So I hate them. I hate their fan base. But I think they'll go all right. How's their bench go? I reckon that's the big question. But I like Tucker. He adds a bit to them. So, we'll just see. We'll just see what happens. I just hope Joel never gets an MVP. That's what I hope.
You hope that Nikola Jokic just continues to make him his buddy and win MVPs for the rest of the decade.
Yeah, or Giannis or Luka or someone likable. And you know what? Joel, if he was on my team, I reckon I'd love him because he seems like a funny guy, but maybe does he just need to get a bit more serious? Just for 1 year, and it might put him over the top. But, what do you reckon? Well, what do you reckon about Doc as a coach? Is he any good?
I think he's better than Tibbs.
I do think he's better than Tibbs.
Yeah, I
But
don't know. He's won a championship with the '08 Celtics, but that was almost like a perfect storm of Garnett, Allen, Rondo, Pierce, like
gifted a team.
starring. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, look, because there was rumors he was going to go to Los Angeles and be the Lakers' new coach. Doc was the coach of the Lob City Clippers, wasn't he?
Believe so. I believe
Yeah,
so.
so
Couldn't
you
do
know
much with
he's
them.
true. He hasn't got over the hump for a chip a lot, but there's so many coaches out there that have won a shitload of games that haven't won tons of championships. But I still think that the Sixers, like you said, are probably going to tread water and stay in a similar bubble. Their season will be dictated by what they do in the postseason. Win 65 games in the regular season, I'll probably still have doubts whether they can get it done. If they are the 6th seed and they're on the road for the entire first, second round, then I'll probably still be able to see the glass half full, them, being a threat and winning a couple of rounds. But they just reek to me of a team that's going to maybe cap out as an East finals team. But that could all change depending on what Jimmy Harden does. So he averaged 20 and 10 in his 21 games last year as a Sixer. But then in the playoffs, his numbers dipped. He was, 18 and, 9 or so. But he only shot 40%, which is a big red flag if you ask me. And I do wonder just what type of James Harden we're going to get, because there was all sorts of crap going on even after he got his trade requests granted and he landed in Philly. His hamstring was hurt, and then he came back and, I think it was the Kings. He had one game where he, had 35 plus, and everyone's like, oh, Harden's back. He's, going to steer the Sixers towards a deep playoff run. But he never has. And until I see him dominating in the playoffs, then I'm always just going to have doubts over this team. You're right. Their bench leaves a bit to be desired, but D'Anthony Melton was a good pickup. I think that'll help him. Tyrese Maxey apparently is an untouchable asset, and for good reason. I think he'll probably emerge into, a star. Don't know if he'll be all-star level, but I think he's going to be another bloke that will go close to averaging 20 a game. Embiid, how many games off the top of your head do you reckon Embiid played last year?
It was a full 82, wasn't it? Season, was it? 70.
Not a bad guess. 68, which kind of surprised me. So career high, which is the reason I bring it up. I think if he can replicate that and play 70, 65, contend for an MVP again, the Sixers will win a shitload of games, but their whole 2023 or 2022-23 outlook will hinge on their playoff run, which I think will be brief.
I think so too. Yeah. So, fuck them. Fuck them all.
Couple of wins behind the Sixers last year were the Toronto Raptors, 48 and 34. Didn't make a ton of noise in the postseason. But I think this is the team, if I had to pick one who is in for a massive surge up the standings, I think it's them. And a lot of that is tied to Scotty Barnes, who got better and better throughout his rookie campaign, and will probably take another big step in his development. They're deep as well. They bat pretty strongly throughout the entire roster. They didn't, again, make a lot of major roster tweaks, but they got complementary pieces that I rate and enjoyed and think suit the makeup of their team. So how do you feel about the TO Raptors as they roll into next season?
I feel similarly to you. I don't know if I've got them making a huge improvement, but I think they're going to be better. I love their length. I love their big men. I love Scotty Barnes. I love them getting Otto Porter, but also really rate them getting Wancho, Bo Cruz. Just adds a bit of shooting.
I was going to say his name. I was going to say, they got this bloke and this bloke and Bo, but I was like, fuck, I can't remember it. Shit. All right, I'll just handball to Jake. Damn it.
No, I really rate. I just think he's one of those great 11th blokes off the bench who, when something goes wrong, he can come in. He's a 6-year pro now. He's a shooter. He rebounds. He's pretty athletic. He's 6'9". And the best thing is a phenomenal locker room guy. Like, I got to obviously see that on the Nuggets for 3 odd years.
Yeah.
And everyone loves him. Like, everyone just froths him. He's waving towels. Otto Porter adds a lot to them. Championship pedigree. And a few of these blokes already have it. We didn't get to see a whole lot of Gary Trent Jr., but boy, he's a great defender. Thad Young's still floating around. Freddie Van Vliet. I really like what they've got. They didn't add that big piece, but I think Spicy Pete, well, he's an all-star and he's an all-NBA player last year, I think.
Yeah, I think he snuck into the third team. He did when we did our ballots anyway.
Fred Van Vliet's a great sort of clutch scorer and just very consistent player. I like Boucher. I quite like Kem Birch. OG Anunoby's just floating around. You sort of forget he's there. But boy, he's an interesting talent who, what's he in? He's in his 5th year. There's no reason he couldn't bump his scoring up and get a little bit better at shooting and become that guy, sort of Andre Iguodala for the Warriors.
Yeah,
way back. So I love him. And, soft spot for Toronto. Can't hate the city. Can't hate any of their players. As long as they don't beat Denver too many times. Nick Nurse is a good coach too. I've heard that he's a bit of a prick, like against opposing coaches and just annoying and whinges, but he's a bloody good at what he does. So yeah, I'm with you on these guys. I think a few little smart moves by Masai Ujiri, and they're gonna make some noise, I think. Plus, was it last year that they didn't have their home court for quite a while?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yep.
Huge.
They were playing out of Tampa for most of the year.
Right, which is like nowhere fucking near Toronto. And then I think when they went back to Toronto, they didn't have a crowd for a while.
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, or a severely reduced crowd. So if they get Scotiabank back popping, I really like the Raptors and what they might be able to do. Maybe they lack a bit of that star power that they need, though. I'm not sure. But let's be honest, the Raptors have got it done with very little star power before. Not necessarily won it all, but have been dangerous and a good bloody team with DeRozan and Lowry. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see how these guys go. And I'm really excited to see what Scotty Barnes can do in year 2.
There was a NBA mandate that went out earlier this week as well, saying that NBA players must be vaxxed to play in Canada. So
not good for Michael Porter Jr.
I was just going to say, there's a perfect example then, because, you get a team coming to town, and if all of a sudden their third best player can't play, they can sneak a couple of extra wins on the board. Again,
yeah,
all the Raptors need to be vaccinated, and that may change over the course of the year. Who knows? But yeah, playing a full season in Toronto obviously will have a drastic improvement, at least on their mental standpoint. They lost Kyle Lowry last off season, so that didn't obviously have a huge ripple effect on court. But you're right, Otto Porter brings a bit of heady veteran leadership to the squad, and all the dudes you mentioned could just improve 5%. Your Gary Trents, your OG Anunoby, who actually shot a little bit worse last year, but averaged 17 points a game, so still did pretty good. Pascal did make the All-NBA third team, and it seems like Scotty Barnes is not ready to, be the franchise player, but he probably will turn into that bloke. So smart by Masai Ujiri to not go for a home run Kevin Durant type trade. I think that this team will, improve on what they did last year. Maybe you're right. A massive leap is a bit of a stretch, but they've still bat really deep. Their length, as you've been harping on for years, is intimidating and gives them, a bit of an X factor. So I like what they got. I think that they're going to do well. Who do you reckon wins more games, Sixers or the Raptors?
Be very close. I'd probably lean Sixers because of Joel and James Harden, but if Joel only plays 50 games, then I'd go Raptors. So
it's tight. There's only
Mm.
3 games last year separated them, and there was only 3 games between the Raptors and the Boston Celtics as well, who finished 51-31. I think in my eyes, they're the clear second best team in the East behind the Bucks. They
Yep.
made, similar to some of the other teams we've talked about, they made smart around the edges upgrades, like the Danilo Gallinari one and Malcolm Brogdon. You don't need them to start for you or help to play 25 plus minutes. They could play 15 minutes. I don't think Gallinari will play much more than that anyway, but they just added a little bit of depth. They kept the band together. I think they'll get a shitload of confidence out of their run they had last year as well. So do you reckon that they can kind of replicate their heroics from last year and go on another deep run?
I think they'll go deep. Love the Brogdon signing. You're right. Danilo adds a bit. I think the big question is going to be around their bigs. Time Lord's 6'8". Grant Williams 6'6". He's
I
not
didn't
really a
realize he
big,
was
but he
that short, eh?
kind of plays big. The biggest player they've got is Luke Cornett at 7'1", and then you're down to Gallo at 6'10". Al Horford 6'10", 6'9".
Al Horford must be like 35 at this point anyway.
Yeah, 15-year pro. So I do worry a little bit about that, but I think they're well coached. They've got a good GM. They've got a bona fide star after that playoff run. They've got another potential all-star in Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Defensive Player of the Year. Love Derek White off the bench.
Oh,
Love
yeah,
Grant
forget
Williams
Marcus
off.
Smart won Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah. I kind of would think that they might even start Brogdon next to Smart. Because
Guess it
Brogdon,
depends on how
in my
healthy he
eyes,
is, right?
Yeah, I think he's a point guard, not a shooting guard. And he's a great distributor. 50, 40, 90 guy. I would expect them. I agree. I think they're the second, maybe the best team in the East. And I think it really comes down to how far Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can take them. But it seems like they kind of figured it out in the playoffs last year, and a finals berth is nothing to shake a stick at. So poker sticker? No, that doesn't make any
Poker stick?
sense. So
Yeah.
shake a stick at. So I think that's gonna hold them in good stead. So yeah, I really like this roster, minus the height. I mean, the 2 times a year they come up against Jokic, or the 4 times they have to play Joel Embiid potentially, that's a problem.
Well, to get through the Eastern Conference, they'll probably have to go through Joel and another big bloke named Giannis Antetokounmpo. So
yeah,
he could cause them a couple of problems. Al Horford 36 for what it's worth. So, well seasoned veteran. I think you're right. Time Lord does play big, and it's like I said, it surprised me that he's only 6'8". His health will be interesting. If he obviously had his injury issues throughout the playoffs last year and had like an MCL sprain from memory as well throughout the back half of the year. Anyway, he gets healthy, and they've got their other guys firing on all cylinders. Derek White was a nice pickup last year. He could, be their 7th, 8th man. You probably don't need many more than that to get through the playoff run. They've got, other guys that they can play during the regular season, but I like their top 8. If you were stacking their top 8 up against all the other teams we've talked about so far, I'd prefer Boston's. And then, if you go around the league, Boston would be right up there in the top handful. So I agree. The finals berth from last year was no fluke, and I think that they'll prove that. And now let's get to everyone's favorite Brooklyn Nets. It's so tough to kind of paint a picture and predict forward what's going to happen, because I read a report today that the Lakers are now willing to trade multiple firsts potentially to get Kyrie. So by the time this goes to air, Kyrie might have been dealt, and Kevin Durant had another tanty. So it's all off-field shit continually going on for the Brooklyn Nets. Do you have any insight to provide for Brooklyn's season ahead?
I really like Cam Thomas. That's what that's about all I can offer. But you know what? It will be exciting to see Ben Simmons back on a basketball court. That'll be exciting. You got to love Patty Mills. I actually don't mind. I don't know where they came from, but TJ Warren and Royce O'Neal are pretty good pieces, I think.
Yep.
But boy, there is just no knowing what this team dishes up come opening night next season. So the big question I have is, what the fuck happened to Kevin Durant? He used to be the coolest dude. Would walk around with his backpack on. I think he even had a line of backpacks. Said he would never chase rings and never never leave OKC, but he's like, I'm loyal. And I loved him. And now I cannot stand him. Like, he's just turned into a monster. So
he really has, hey.
That's my big question. What the fuck? Kyrie was always a loser, but what the hell, Kevin Durant?
Yeah, I can see the downside for Kyrie, but I still can't forever hate that bloke after his role in a championship winning Cleveland team. But I tell you what, when he requested a trade, when was that? 2017, maybe 18. And I was like, oh, we can't afford to lose him. Ever since then, I've been like, oh, thank fuck that bloke left, eh? So
thank God.
It's just all, like I said, off-season drama. Yeah, I don't know where it went wrong for KD. I think clearly he just got in his own head. And I've heard multiple blokes, especially on the Bill Simmons podcast, he talks about it, how like Kevin Durant went to Golden State, won a ring, and he was like, oh, that wasn't as like fulfilling as I thought it would be. And it probably was because of the team he joined and the way that they won. But still, maybe, like I've said to you, maybe he goes to, I don't know, Sacramento to win them a ring, or goes to Washington, where I think he's from Washington, right?
Yeah.
Goes there and tries to get them over the hump. Maybe that's the way that he ends his NBA career and ties a bow on his legacy. Like, on the court, he's one of, if not the greatest scoring player we've seen. The way that he gets buckets is ridiculous, but the off-field shit is really starting to quickly overshadow his on-court achievements, which is a shame. But yeah, I'll be interested to see where he ends up. And if he does end up somewhere, does he force his way out of there in a couple of years? If he goes to Phoenix, he's contracted for 4 years, but does he see out that contract, or does he spit the chewy and ask for another trade? Who knows?
Just retire.
Just end it. Had enough.
Fuck the league. Fuck the NBA. I'm retiring.
Well, he's been around for what, like 14 seasons, 15 seasons, something like that. So
15, yeah.
Which, it's not nothing. He's getting right to the end of it, you'd think. Yeah. Who knows? All right, quickly, if they do, let's say that they can't facilitate any trades. Obviously, the locker room sounds like it'll be a shambles after these blokes request all their trades and then roll back in. But on paper, they've still got Ben Simmons, Kyrie, Kevin Durant. Is there any hope that for the Brooklyn Nets, this team can galvanize and potentially go on a run? Because, like I said, they've got the on-court talent, but I think the off-season shit has probably just done too much damage.
Yeah, look, you never know. The NBA is a funny place. You're right. They could have the best roster in the league, or they could have the best 8-9-man roster, lacking a bit of height. Like, I'm only seeing Nick Claxton as a center. Obviously, Ben Simmons, once he gets the ball over, brings it up, which he probably won't do with Kyrie anyway. Kind of makes Ben Simmons useless in a weird way. But they're going to be very small. So I think they could get it done. I think they would still have a lot of trouble with the Bostons of the world and the Heat and the Sixers and the Giannis. So I see them as probably a 4 seed that would potentially get bounced in the first 2 rounds again, even if they manage to pull a rabbit out of the hat and make it work.
Yeah, I can't see them going on a deep run. And I'll be honest, I don't think both Kyrie and Kevin will be there opening night. Originally, I did say that, but I think there's too much shit going on now. I think one of them goes. Maybe it's Kyrie to the Lakers after these recent rumors. Maybe Kevin Durant gets his wish. But, yeah, yuck. All right. We'll be back next week and do another Western Conference squad. We might even go towards the Pacific Division. We've talked a little bit about the Lakers, which links somewhat to today's Mount Rushmore. So last week we did the best players to never win a Brownlow, and you comprehensively swept the floor with me.
Good. Thank God.
So you're back on the winners list. 7 to Frosty, 5 to JLo is the career tally.
Yep.
And today we're going to be drafting, might be my favorite topic that we've picked, to be honest, is iconic Kobe Bryant moments, shots, games, dunks, whatever. You choose. You can go down the route you want to go down.
Okay.
We might have to have a couple of score reviews. There might be, a couple of plays that we try to lump in as one. There might be a moment that we talk about, but yeah, it's really iconic Kobe Bryant moments. And there's a lot of them. As I was compiling my top 8 and my leaderboard, I found it difficult to cut out my top 5 and find a spot where I was happy, cutting the list.
I'm interested to see where you go with number 1.
Yeah, look, I got a couple right at the top that I think are deservingly up the top, but I have to pick his 81-point game. I think that has to be the first pick. I was going to try and get fancy and be like, oh, can I sneak these 2 in, with 2 of my first 3? But no, it's probably lost a little bit of its sheen from when it first happened. But what was it? Nearly 20 years ago now. Oh, probably closer to 15, but
Jesus, yeah.
2006 from memory, eh?
Far out. It's getting there.
Yeah, close. 81 points against the Toronto Raptors, 55 in the second half. Done. Lock it in. Pick number 1.
Fair enough. Yeah, look, that's a good pick. I thought you would take that. So, and if you didn't, I would have sort of said, you're bloody crazy.
Yeah, you're dumb.
I think I know what your next pick will be, considering what my pick is going to be, but I don't think there's a more iconic Kobe Bryant moment, the effort game, than when he said Mamba out. So I'm going to take Mamba out, 60 points in his closing last ever game. I don't think I've ever watched a more exciting basketball game than that. I don't know. Did you watch it live, or were you at work or something? Or?
I was at work, and I get a text message. I don't think it was from you. I think it was honestly from someone else who's not a huge basketball fan. And they're like, bro, Kobe's got 50. And I was like,
yeah.
What do you mean? And I opened up my app. I remember me and the bloke who I was working with, we were at a holiday daycare thing for all the kids who are I don't know, 7 to 14. And they're all just playing sport at this gym. And we're meant to be running this game. And he and I just get my phone, load up League Pass. We're like, kids, just entertain yourselves for 10 minutes. We've got to watch the last 5 minutes of this game. And you're right. It was arguably the most entertaining game of basketball.
Oh, I've never wanted one player to do better ever. And you're seeing all the celebrities. Jack Nicholson, Snoop Dogg was losing his mind.
Yeah.
Shaq was there. Kanye was there. Jay-Z was there. Everyone was there. The whole crowd was losing it. So yeah, I'm going to take Mamba out as my number 1. And you know what? I'm glad I didn't have the number 1 pick, because I would have taken that anyway. Even though I probably should have taken the 81, because that is just the best Kobe moment ever. That's
why I was saying I was going to try and get a bit fancy, because that was my clear second. And I think those 2 are clear top 2, maybe.
I think so.
There's a couple of others you could maybe argue for, but yeah, you can't really go past scoring 60 in your last NBA game. Did you hear?
No way.
I'm sure you have, of the Gordon Hayward story, how he stepped intentionally over the free throw line when Kobe had 59, because he was like, oh yeah, if he misses, I want him to get 60. So I'm like, I'm doing a lane violation so that if he misses, he gets another shot. Yeah. Yeah. Elite. Could have been a number 1 pick, but like I said, was my second. This was tough trying to order after this.
Okay. Oh, really?
But Yeah, because this one, I learnt my lesson after last week. I'm not going to try and get fancy. I'm going to take the thing that I think needs to go third. And it's actually not even really a basketball play. But third, I'm taking Kobe Bryant not flinching when Matt Barnes puts the ball in his face.
Oh, that's such a good one. I didn't
Yeah.
even think of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That might be the best basketball play of all time.
Yeah. And
Well
just
done.
the whole stone faced, I think there was a video saying, and like a bird's eye view, and you can see that it's like not in his face, it's a different angle. But I'm like, nah, fuck off. Like, I don't want to hear any of that conspiracy bullshit. Like, and even if it was a little bit to the left or the right, the bloke didn't even flinch, did not acknowledge it. So yeah, I'm taking that with my second pick.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Okay, well, you've left me one. I think you considered this for the greatest basketball players of all time, and it was Lakers, Suns. Might have been in the conference finals, and
First
it's when
round.
Kobe, thank you, stole the ball, put him up with that cool little floatery, like doesn't touch the rim shot, and then wins it in overtime and does which is my least favorite celebration ever. I think it's so lame. Just
the one fist.
Yeah, just walking, like not pumping, just holding it back.
Then doesn't he then do a couple of mini pumps?
Well, he didn't do it soon enough, in my opinion.
Okay.
But let's be honest, Kobe Bryant can do no wrong. So that's I thought you would take that, and you could have got the Matt Barnes pick dead last.
That's why yeah.
So well
I was
done.
going to try and get fancy.
I'll take the Kobe.
I think that game winner against Phoenix is my favorite sequence of Kobe plays, because then doesn't afterwards he do the scream and rip the jersey? I'm pretty sure it's that game.
I think that's the game. Yeah.
That runner he does, I honestly reckon was harder than the overtime game winner. Yeah. So
yeah. No, you're probably right.
Deserves plenty of credit. That was the fourth one I had as well. So we're sticking to form. And I'm honestly contemplating swapping fifth and sixth here for the order I've got them. But no, I'm not. I'm going to stick to the draft board. This one I'm going to mention last week. Oh, no, I am. No, I'm changing it. I'm taking him outscoring Dallas in 3 quarters, 62-61.
Wow, I wouldn't have had that one either. So, okay. Yeah, no, that is just so Kobe.
Yeah, up to 3/4 time. And I'm pretty sure there was some stuff pre-game, and he'd been on a elite scoring binge rolling into it, but there was some stuff about them talking about how they could stop him or slow him down, or last time they played, the Mavs got a hold of him. So, yeah, he didn't play the entire fourth quarter, but at 3/4 time, the score was Dallas Mavericks 61, Kobe Bryant 62.
Okay, well, wow. That puts me in a bit of a tricky situation. So where are we up to? I've lost it. I've got your
third pick.
This is my third pick. Oh boy. Well, there's one of these that I don't think I'm going to take now was in my list of most iconic plays ever. But I don't think it's probably, anyway, I won't get into it just yet. We'll see if it sticks around. So I think I'm going to take Kobe blowing past Garnett and sucking the gravity right out of the building when he does the windmill sort of thing over Serbiak. It's one of the most like that baseline. There's a photo of it. It's just so amazing.
That was in the playoffs too.
Yeah, I think I'll take that one, and I think that's his best dunk. You could argue for a few others, but I'll take him over around Garnett over Serbiak, sucking the gravity right out of the building. And just one of those plays that has that iconic call by Kevin Harlan as well.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
It's all part of it.
That was the first omission I had from my top 8. So 9th, technically.
Yep.
But that was the highest I had a dunk rated. So that's probably his most iconic dunk, I reckon.
Yeah. Okay. Last pick.
Yeah. And I'm tossing up between two, but I'm having a lot of fun with my picks so far. So I'm going to round it out with probably my outside of the 60-point game, my favorite Kobe game. And that's his performance in the 2008 Olympics when he steers USA to a gold medal.
Wow.
And
okay. You've gone deep in your bag for these.
Oh yeah. I've done a lot of looking and research at this one. I wasn't down for back-to-back losses after the Teddy Whitten extravaganza last week.
Okay.
So
yes, Ted Whitten was a bad choice.
the when Spain made the push and got it back to like that 2-point game, and he does that like jab step 3 and hits them with just the shush for the 4-point play. Yeah, that's gives me tingles. So that rounds out my draft board.
Shit, the one I didn't pick before still there, but I was purposefully leaving this one till the last pick because I didn't think it would be on your radar, and I'm gonna pick it because I think it's really not a highlight, and it's not, but it's a memory, and it's sort of it sums up Kobe and the competitor that he was so perfectly. And so I'm going to pick with my last pick, and boy, I'm leaving some fucking really good ones on the cutting room floor. The one I was going to pick last pick was his assist to Shaq.
That was
the
on my list.
When Shaq runs down like that. But I do feel like that's maybe not enough Kobe. Do you know what I mean?
That's exactly what I thought. That was 4th on my list. 6th on my list. But then I've just kind of, the more I looked at it, the more I was like, it's more the two of them, not just Kobe. Yeah.
Yeah. And so leaving that one on the table, I'm going to pick Kobe striding up to the free throw line
this was on my list.
an Achilles and then walking off unhelped. Because I just think that is, I mean, I know I couldn't do it, and I think it's just perfectly summarizes Kobe. So yeah, that's the one I'm picking. That rounds out my list. And boy, there's less like actual highlights than you'd think.
Yeah.
They're more like moments for Kobe, which maybe that tells you exactly what you need to know about the bloke.
Good point. The only one of my top 8 that did not get drafted was his back-to-back shots against Portland, the one to force overtime.
Oh, yeah.
And then win it, which are both absurd shots against Ruben Pattinson, the Kobe stopper.
Yeah, the stopper.
Probably deserved to mention. I've got a couple of other honourable mentions. Him banking that game winner against Dwayne Wade. That was cool. Winning the dunk contest as a rookie. It's pretty good.
Very cool.
He also hit 12 threes in a single game. He also scored 61 points at the Garden. He what else have I got? Well, that's about it. Yeah.
Dwight Howard poster, I reckon, is right up there.
Oh, true. Oh, and is it Lamar Odom? No, it might be Robert Odom. That throws him like the full court pass, and he kind of like catches it, goes around his back, and then like under the hoop and dunks it. Yeah, that's pretty iconic for Kobe standards as well. So we could honestly probably have done a second Mt Rushmore draft because you're right. We didn't exactly have a lot of basketball players, but I'm not mad.
No, I'm glad that we went the route we went, actually. Yeah, I think you're right. That was my favorite Mount Rushmore, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe less intriguing and less interplay. Like last week, it was a mental game. In other weeks, I've had to cheat and change the rules at the last second. But I think this week was good. And I'm glad we chose I'm glad you chose the fucking pass fake, man. That's a really good pick. So
yeah, I was going to try and just sneak it down a couple more picks, but if you had have clued onto it and taken it ahead of me, I might have just ended the podcast.
Yeah, right. No, fair enough. Good. Well done, mate. That's going to be a really interesting vote.
Yeah, that'll be a tight one. That'll be another toit one. All righty. We'll make sure that the Sportsby fans get right around that and vote. Next week, we'll be back doing another footy one. And hopefully we'll have the top 8 locked in, maybe. Don't know. And hopefully we'll have no other shitstorm going on in Brooklyn or with our AFL fantasy teams so that we can end the fantasy season with a bang and continue our NBA previews.
Yeah, bang.
Bang. All right. Thanks for sitting down, mate. We will catch you next week.